The sound of thunder cracked across the evening sky like a judge's gavel, and rain began to pelt the windows with the kind of fury that makes you pause mid-step. I had just brought in the last of the laundry when I heard my son, Darren, call out from the kitchen. "Mom, can you grab the storage boxes from the garage?" "The storm might flood it," he said, not even looking up from his phone. I nodded. "Sure, honey, just help me keep the door open, all right? It always sticks in this weather." Yeah, he mumbled, still distracted. I headed to the garage, my knees creaking from the dampness in the air, and as I leaned over to reach the boxes of family photo albums, memories I had preserved through death, debt, and divorce, the door slammed behind me. At first, I thought it was the wind. Then I heard the click. Locked. I turned and knocked gently. "Darren?" No response. "Darren, honey." The door locked behind me. A beat of silence, then a muffled voice. "Just wait till the rain dies down, Mom. It's not a big deal." I froze. "Darren, it's freezing in here." Nothing. There was no light in the garage, only the thrum of the rain growing heavier, angrier. My breath started to fog up in the cold. I was wearing socks, wet from the concrete, and my heart began to thump. Not out of fear of the storm, but from something far more painful. He had done it on purpose. Not because the door jammed, but because I was inconvenient. This wasn't new. Darren and his wife Kelsey had moved in 6 months ago, temporarily, after their second bankruptcy. I'd paid their credit card debt, hosted their baby shower, even let them turn the guest room into a nursery. And yet, each month, they treated me like a burden rather than the reason they still had a roof over their heads. "I just need space, Mom." "You should be grateful we even let you stay in your own house." That was Kelsey last week. Her words. And now, standing in a cold, dark garage as water began to trickle from the edges of the door, I realized something gut-wrenching. They didn't just want space. They wanted me gone. Lightning split the sky, and for a moment, I saw my own reflection in the garage window. I didn't recognize her. Gray hair half pulled back, wrinkled hands, slumped shoulders. A woman reduced to a housekeeper, a babysitter, a punching bag. The water was rising now. My socks soaked. A cardboard box of my late husband's letters tipped and spilled into the murky puddle. That was the final straw. I stood up straighter, pulled my cardigan around me like armor, and whispered to no one, "You want the house without me? Let's see how you like it without the roof, too." I banged on the garage again. No answer. So I waited. The storm raged for hours, but I wasn't afraid. I had survived worse storms, divorcing an alcoholic husband, working double shifts to pay the mortgage, nursing my mother alone. No thunder could scare me anymore. When the door finally opened, it wasn't Darren. It was little Chloe, my 5-year-old granddaughter, crying. "Nana, Mommy says don't tell you dinner's ready." My heart cracked. Even the child knew I was unwanted. I didn't sleep that night. I spent the next morning doing what no one expected. I called the lawyer I had once hired to draft my will, and then I called the city inspector, and the bank, and a friend who owed me a favor, the same one who helped me get into real estate when I was 48 and broke. They thought they locked me in a garage, but I had just unlocked a storm of my own. The next morning, the house was oddly quiet. Darren and Kelsey were likely still asleep after their wine and loud movie night, while little Chloe sat in the living room watching cartoons, completely unaware that her grandmother was about to change everything they took for granted. I moved quietly, like a shadow. My fingers, still trembling from the cold night in the garage, held a folder with old property papers, original deeds, not the copies I had given them when they moved in and insisted on taking over the paperwork. The title was still in my name. They didn't know. They never even checked. Too confident, too entitled. Before noon, the city inspector I had called arrived. Clipboard in hand, badge visible, and a no-nonsense attitude. I greeted him with fresh coffee and a knowing smile. "I've got some concerns about safety violations in my home," I said loud enough for Darren to hear upstairs, especially structural issues in the garage and signs of neglect. By the time Darren came stumbling down in his hoodie, the inspector was already marking cracks on the exterior and photographing faulty electrical wiring they had ignored for months. "Mom, what the hell is going on?" "Just routine," I said, sipping my tea. "You know, since I'm the homeowner, liability falls on me." His eyes twitched. "You're still on the title?" "Of course," I said calmly. "You never even asked. You just assumed I'd hand it all over like everything else." Later that day, I made my next move. I went to my bank and transferred the equity loan I had taken out for their debt back into a personal investment account. I no longer intended to forgive the loan like they had begged me to. Then I made the most satisfying call of all, to a local buyer, someone who had been trying to purchase the house for months, who offered cash, and who respected elderly property owners. We signed within 2 days. Darren and Kelsey were still too distracted by their weekend getaway plans to notice. On Sunday morning, I made breakfast, one last time. Chloe sat happily eating pancakes while Darren scrolled through his phone, and Kelsey stared in her usual disapproving silence. Then I handed them an envelope each. Kelsey opened hers first. "What the hell is this?" "30-day eviction notice," I said, standing tall. Darren looked up, his eyes wide. "You're joking." "No," I said softly. "You locked your mother in a garage during a storm. You've disrespected me in my own home. You've called me a burden behind my back. You want freedom? You'll have it, just not under my roof." "You can't do this." "I already have," I said. "The house is sold. The new owner wants to renovate. You've got 30 days. Kelsey jumped up, yelling something about child endangerment, and "we have nowhere to go." But I didn't flinch. I looked at Chloe instead, knelt beside her, and handed her a separate envelope. Inside was a drawing she had made of the house with hearts and flowers. "I kept it," I said, "because unlike your parents, you gave me love without conditions." That night, I moved into a small lake cabin I bought with my name alone on the deed. Peaceful, quiet, mine. I thought they might beg, apologize. Instead, I got a voicemail from Darren a week later. "You're ruining our lives. You're insane. You'll die alone." I didn't call back, but I mailed him something. A copy of the garage security footage I had installed months ago, showing him deliberately locking the door and walking away. The same footage I gave the real estate lawyer to ensure they couldn't sue me for wrongful eviction. My revenge wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was legal, final, and written in the very silence they had once thrown me into. 2 weeks after the eviction notice was delivered, the storm that once symbolized my humiliation returned. But this time, I wasn't trapped in the garage. I stood by the window of my lakeside cabin, warm mug in hand, watching the rain dance across the water. The wind howled against the trees, but inside, all was quiet, peaceful, mine. Across town, however, chaos had begun to set in for Darren and Kelsey. Their entitled lives unraveled fast. The buyer I sold the house to? A property developer who wasted no time sending renovation crews. Darren tried to delay them, yelling that his daughter lived there. But it didn't work, because legally he had no leg to stand on. The locks were changed by the 28th day. They had to move into a motel. And just when they thought things couldn't get worse, they did. See, in the same envelope I mailed Darren with the garage security footage, I included a letter. A letter addressed not to him, but to Child Protective Services. It contained the video, a detailed statement, and the name of a neighbor who had once knocked on the garage during the storm, only to be told I was just taking a nap in there. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about protecting Chloe. I didn't want her growing up thinking neglect was normal. That cruelty was just family tension. So yes, I made sure CPS followed up. And when they did, they found enough inconsistencies and risk factors to take immediate action. Chloe was temporarily placed with her paternal aunt, someone who had tried for years to warn Darren he was becoming like his father, someone who, unlike Kelsey, had warmth in her bones. Meanwhile, I got a visit, not from Darren, but from Chloe's aunt. "I don't know what they did to you," she said, standing on my porch with eyes brimming, but thank you for saving her." And then, finally, came the part that healed something in me I hadn't even known was bleeding. Chloe sent me a card, hand-drawn, crayons and all. It had 2 stick figures. One had a sad face and was in a box with raindrops. The other was smiling, holding her hand, walking into a little house with a heart on the door. She'd drawn me. And her. I wept for the first time, not because I was hurt, but because I had finally done something right. Not for Darren, not for Kelsey, but for someone who still had time to be saved from their toxic shadow. Months passed. I received no apology. No thank you. Only bitterness from a distance. Darren and Kelsey tried to spin the story, told people I lied, that I turned their daughter against them. But the footage didn't lie. The CPS report didn't lie. The neighbors didn't lie. They were left with only the lies they told themselves. I spent my days planting wildflowers in my garden, painting, reading, relearning how to live for me. And on the anniversary of the storm, I did something symbolic. I took the rusted garage key, the one they had once used to lock me in like a forgotten item, and I threw it into the lake. Let the water take what they took for granted. Let it sink, because I had risen, not with rage, but with resolve. Not with noise, but with power. And this time, the storm had set me free.